Hello and welcome to Our Time.
How lovely to have your company once again.
And if it's your first time for watching this program, this is Malcolm and I'm Janice. And we're glad that you joined us.
Are you sure of that?
I am.
That it's the first time?
Well, that might be the first time for
Well,
some.
it may be the first time, you're quite right. But welcome to our time, because yes, we have a whole heap of stuff on our program. One of the things we would like to remind you, you can find out who is on our program each week simply by having a check out of Facebook, because each week we load up pictures and stuff so that everybody knows who's on, because they don't put the guests in any of the TV magazines.
No, they don't.
And today, on this episode, we have a very special guest. His name is Max Kavanagh. You've been talking to Max?
Physiotherapist.
Yes. Do you need one?
I have one, actually. I do need one. Dude.
This could be old
It's
age.
terrible getting old.
Old age sneaking up, but we all understand that. And speaking of old age sneaking up, there's another terrible segue. Last week, because David Gauci was our guest, and he's a big man, and his show is called It Was Worth the Wait. It was, speaking of big men, but now speaking of older, mature men like a good glass of wine, welcome Jim Slade.
Well, hello, Malcolm and Janice.
What an introduction.
Great to have you with us, Jim.
It's great to be here.
Now,
it's great to be alive and here.
Yeah, quite. We were just saying that before.
I know.
Jim, people may not know your face, but they would probably recognise your voice, I would think.
Well,
Could you do a call sign or something for us? One of those wonderful ones from the past?
Okay, well, there was one that when I played one of the older records, I used to say, this track goes way back, and I would actually get the echo, and the engineers used to hate the fact that I used so much echo. I used everything on the show. It was just a lot of fun.
So, for how many years were you a radio... Were you called a jock then?
Disc jockey.
Disc jockey, yeah.
Yeah. About 25 years. 10 in Adelaide, or 8 in Adelaide, and the rest in Melbourne. And
then you came home to Adelaide?
Yeah, I did.
Well, how did it all start for you? Obviously, you were a child once and you went to school.
Yes, at Colonelite Gardens. In fact, I remember when I was growing up in the backyard of Colonelite Gardens, I used to grab a piece of bamboo and pretend it was a microphone. I used to listen to Jack Fox on 5KA and Margaret.
I remember Jack Fox.
Yeah,
We've got a picture of you in your school days.
Yes.
We should have a look at that, because it's amazing when you know, we've all got these photographs of us at school, and there's you. Where are you?
Which one are you, Jim?
I'm third row up, little fat kid there. I'm just trying to pick it up myself. And yeah, fourth along from the right.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's me there, yes.
Well, from being a child using a bamboo as a microphone, then you actually got into radio.
I actually went into the police force to begin with, and when I was in the police force, I still wanted to get into radio, and so I went to Loxton. I was posted there, and I said to the sergeant, "Look, I want to go back on the beat." And he said, "Why?" He said, "You've got a future in front of you here." But in my mind, I knew that if I got back into Adelaide and on the beat, I could get into the radio room. And the radio room every day, or Friday I think it was, they used to broadcast the police news at 7 o'clock.
It wasn't Car 54, Where Are You stuff, was it?
No, we did that too. But no, it was, and they used to broadcast on 5K 7 o'clock in the morning.
Well, and then you ended up at 5DN. I swapped calls, swapped stations.
I actually started, no, that was 5KA. Well, I suppose in a way I did. I was in the police force broadcasting the police news on 5KA, but then I started with the wonderful John Edmund at Theatre 62.
Yeah, my theatre.
Now, he taught me, in fact, he said to me one day after 6 weeks of tuition, he said, "Jim, I've done everything I can for you. The rest is up to you."
We just saw you on a bottle top, but here's another shot. This was when the DJ sort of had competitions between each other?
No, what happened was Everybody's Magazine decided in 1965 and 1967, that shot is from 67, that they would find out the most popular disc jockey in each state.
Right.
And so people had to buy Everybody's Magazine, great for increasing circulation.
Sort of like TV Week and the Logos.
Yeah, same thing. And I was lucky enough to win on the 2 occasions they ran it.
I remember listening to you on radio. And this shot here?
That was, when I was at 5KA, that was a fun run, and we were raising money for a charity. I can't remember which one. I do know that I'd been on air from 6 until 10 on that Sunday morning, and the fun run started at 11. And I think by this time it was about 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
I love it.
Gosh.
Look, we're all so young then. But what about this one here with the mini skirts?
That was a lot of fun. With the late Noel O'Connor, who was a wonderful presenter. He really was. Noel and I hosted this particular show, and my job, somebody had to do it. I had to measure the shortest mini dress.
Of course you did.
I know.
Yes, of course you did.
Everyone wanted my job.
Who are you with here?
That's the marvellous from the Trogs, Chris Britton. I actually went to Melbourne. They were in Melbourne. I came to Adelaide as well back in November. And I'd already interviewed Chris. He's a wonderful person. He really is. He's the last of the original Trogs. And
well, this is one of the reasons that we wanted you to come and talk to us, because you've come up with such a good idea of being able to see these people that we used to all listen to and watch on the early black and white TV shows and listen to on radio, but you've come up with a great idea as to how to make all this happen again.
Which is wonderful. I love the use of technology. If you can harness it, you can do some fabulous things. Now with Chris, I actually interviewed him at one of our shows. He was in London in his lounge room. I was at Norwood on stage, and through the magic of Skype or FaceTime, depending on which particular one you use, I interviewed him live. And at the end of the interview, I invited people to come up and have a chat with him.
Well, fortunately, we've got some of these interviews. You've made up a nice little package for us. So let's have a look at some of the people you've been talking to in the last couple of years.
Mate, when you were called up, that really did hit your career hard, didn't it?
Oh, it stopped at stone dead, you know, and I reckon it cost me plenty. We were geared up quite highly in the UK. We were touring already, we were recording already, we were doing really well. We'd had songs in the top 30. We had all our own equipment. We were travelling all over the British Isles and set to go to Europe.
How did you actually get into the music business?
Well, it just, I guess in a way it just seemed to happen. I didn't set out to do anything because there was no music business then. I just liked to sing. I'd been singing all my life in church choirs and school choirs and with a lot of success. And then I used to sing along to the records, the 50s, and then of course I learned guitar. I taught myself ukulele and then guitar and of course piano. And friends would get me up to sing at parties, and I was very extremely shy.
We actually lived down the road in Norwood, from the Norwood Hotel in the parade, and we'd get home and Bond had had a few drinks, and he would lift up the window and just go in through the window. No point bothering him out the door.
Chris, how did you come across the song Wild Thing? Because it was written by Chip Taylor.
Yeah, it was written by Chip Taylor, but it was found for us by the chap that we were persisting on, aggravating and insisting on getting a song by Larry Page. He sent us a whole pile of demos, amongst which was the demo of Wild Thing. He actually wanted us to do a song called Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind by the Loving Spoonful, because in those days, just about everybody was doing covers of other people's songs.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's really clever.
It's just great to have that, because the shows, though, we should explain, are a combination of the interviews and live performers.
Yes. Well, I have what I have every one of the Baby Boomers Rock Adelaide shows. I've got a rock band, and the band is composed of people that were musos in the 60s and 70s. They may not be with the same band, but they're still out there playing. And they know the music that people want to hear.
Yes.
And also I have an interview on stage. I sometimes have guest artists on stage as well. And then
if they're still alive like us. There's a bit of a drop-off rate with a lot of those pop stars, singers, isn't it? It's rather sad when, you know, people that were our heroes before. Who were your heroes?
Oh gosh, Cliff Richards, I love.
Well, he's still around.
Yes, he's still around.
I can do a Cliff Richard song if you want. We're all going on a summer holiday. Oh heavens, I've sung that a bit.
Helen Shapiro tells a good story about that. When she was 12 or 13, she was going to school. She was appearing on television on the Sunday evening, and the next morning she'd be back at school. And I did an interview with her, and she said she was very popular with the kids at school because Cliff Richard was on the same record label as she was. So she had to get autographs from Cliff Richard for the kids at school.
Lulu was another one. Now, Lulu came to Australia recently. She did a performance with, who was she with? What's his name? The little, with the curly hair? I've forgotten now.
Yes, Leo Sayer.
Oh, yes, he's living here now too.
Yeah, yes, he does. Yeah.
So, Jim, what do you think the future is for people like, well, all of us, I guess? I mean, we're doing a community television program and it's aimed at baby boomers. You're doing a live show, essentially.
Yeah.
And you really, these days, we don't have the live variety shows that we used to have where these people could be interviewed.
And that is sad.
It's very sad. And like all of us are sort of interested to know what's happening to us all, you know, as we age.
I think what we've got to do is create the interest for the baby boomers and those a little bit younger than that, because they're coming on, and we've got to create interest for them, and make sure they're entertained. And the most important thing is to give the people what they want.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, that's the first rule of show business, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it was interesting, just quickly going backwards. So you really got into radio because of wanting to be an actor initially?
No, wanting to be on radio. I used to listen to Jack Fox and.
So why did you go to John Edmund?
Because in the police force, I used to be known as the Whisperer.
Okay.
And I had to project my voice more, so I went to John, and for 6 weeks I had to recite parts from Julius Caesar for 6 weeks but he was fantastic.
It's not quite that way anymore when you do this stuff. Jim, it's been great to both meet you and to be able to talk to you today. And thanks so much for actually doing what you're doing and recreating memories for people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
And talking about recreating, we're going to find out how to recreate our health with our next guest, Max Kavanagh, in just a tick.
And here we are.
I think you need this book.
Well, I do have.
No, you need this book.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
See what it says?
I know. Well, don't you think I'm back in motion?
I don't know.
What do you mean
say what
exactly?
Are emotions like? Show us some. But you were saying, sorry, with me being...
No, our next guest, Max Kavanagh. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Max.
Thank you very much.
Max is a physiotherapist, and now...
Fix my back, Max!
I get that a lot.
Do you? Funny about it.
Saying that things have changed since you started in physiotherapy, that actually things have changed quite dramatically?
Well, yes, they have. They really have. When I graduated way back in 1982, physiotherapy was really starting to become known in the sports field, and that's the main reason why I joined the course to get involved in sports medicine. It was very much targeted at treating the local part. It had a lot of emphasis on electrotherapy, so that we would put people on machines a lot. And that
what did that do? Just make the muscle
some
sort of spasm?
Each machine has different functions, but generally they have a small contributing factor towards healing processes. In many cases, they can be very effective in decreasing the actual stimulation or the sensation of pain as well. But on the whole, they're not addressing the cause of the problem. And I think that's what's happened over the years.
That's the greatest change?
I think so. Basically, what we really do need now are people that focus very much on not just relieving pain. It's hard though, because in the society we have ads constantly telling us to pop pills to relieve pain. Or that
I don't like popping pills to relieve pain, because in a way pain should be a good thing to let you know you've got a problem or the problem is going away. That's how I tend to perceive
Instead
it.
of taking something that will just hide it.
Yes.
Dull it for a little bit.
You're dulling
Well, that's it.
because you take a pill, it's got to go right through your entire body before it finds, you know.
Indeed, and in fact that's a bad focus for our whole medical system in some ways, by popping pills.
Well, good, let's be controversial.
By popping pills just to relieve pain, you're right, you're taking away some of the messages that the nervous system needs. The other focus being on the pain means that we tend to think that the injury started when the pain starts. Now that can be easily shown not to be true. For instance, there are many times that I see people come in and they've hurt their back, and asking them when did it start, Sometimes they say when I picked up a hanky or bent over and just lifted a box. Now that doesn't make sense when you think about it, because they've done that a million times before.
Yes.
Why would it just cause a problem then?
But something
So in actual fact, what's happened is you've had problems building up over a period of time, and a great physiotherapist should be able to look at that and work out what has been going on, what's causing the load, the uneven load and the strain on tissue, and sooner or later it becomes an inflammatory situation. Of course, that's when we
and
get
that's
pain.
when the pain occurs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Max, with things like the pressure points with Chinese medicine or Asian medicine, with chiropractic, with acupuncture, yes. I suppose most of us have tried many of those things. I've had needles put in and all sorts of stuff, particularly if you're looking for a pain, it's not so much pain, like I've had a bad shoulder, for example. So I've had the x-rays and they could see what was wrong, so I've had injections there, but I still get a bad shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'm aware from a doctor friend of mine who said as we get older, our tendons tend to shrink a bit, which pulls the joints together, that can be a bit more wearing perhaps.
Certainly, we get changes as we age, there's no doubt about that. But I try to correct people on that attitude, because a lot of people get told, or you're just getting older, or what do you expect at your age. The downside to that is every joint in your body is the same age. They're not all giving you problems.
No.
So in actual fact, the ageing process
really
is
valid
really
point, yes.
valid only because our systems slow down. So in actual fact, you do have to be even careful as you get older.
But we probably don't do the same sort of movement or exercise that would stretch and keep us as flexible.
That's right.
So I guess if you do something suddenly, like pick something up and you haven't prepared yourself properly for it, it's easy to do that. Have you done that?
Yes, I have. But I was just thinking, you know, they say as you're getting older that you should still stay active, you know, keep yourself exercising and do those things that you've always liked to do. So I guess the thing is, what we need to do is probably do the same thing, but probably a little bit slower.
Yes, we have to be wise about what we do. In actual fact, as we get older, we'd all know we don't bounce like we used to,
No.
and things don't heal quite as quickly as they did before. So it means, yes, you do have to keep mobile, because the old saying, motion is your friend, is important. If you don't use it, you lose it. These things are all things we use on a daily basis, and they have good, valid, they're very valid, because if you don't use it, then the tissues don't give feedback to the nervous system. And in actual fact, it's your nervous system that needs that feedback.
Well, they wouldn't be getting the nutrition either, so to speak.
That's exactly right, exactly right. Your nervous system is constantly wanting feedback all the time. That's how it makes its decisions on how our body functions and heals and continues to move well. So the trouble is, we often get told to go home and rest or take it easy. Unfortunately, that's the worst thing you can do. Because
to rest?
Yes, to rest completely is not good.
Because you need the blood flow to repair?
Yes, not just blood flow, but also the nervous system needs to know what sort of nutrients it needs to send at which stages of the inflammatory process or which stages of healing. So you certainly must rest from aggravating activities, but definitely you don't rest. So we constantly give people lots of movement, lots of techniques to keep them going.
Okay.
So Max, this book that you've been is a co-author and editor of?
And editor, yes. That's it.
How can this is available if we just need to Google?
Yes, you can get all the information, and the thrust of the book is really just like that. It is about getting information to everybody about what they can do for themselves, and I think that's what our medical system needs to do much more of. Give as much information to people about how they can actually help themselves. The book is available online, and anyone can read it. Certainly the first few chapters are very, very important for people to read and understand.
Okay.
There's no coloured pictures, Max.
It's an information book, I'm afraid.
Oh, I did find a skeleton there and some muscles before, so I'll have a bit of a remembrance of how it all works. But, you know, as we go through life, we do tend to sort of try and do what we always were capable of doing. I've certainly found it's changed for me, and I'm sure it has for you. But in those changes, like me complaining about my shoulder, for example, a lot of people seem to believe that this is going to happen, as we said before. You're going to have these as you age. And I like that point that it isn't through every joint in your body. But clearly some joints are getting more wear and tear than others because of what we do.
It's usually because of imbalance. What happens is if we don't move in a very efficient manner, then there's an imbalance on the joints in a loading sense.
So is that because the muscles are pulling?
Yes, it could be the muscles pulling, or it could be your anatomy, or it could be the habits that you do. It could be partly related to the work or the habits or the hobbies that you
Or can it
take
be
up.
things like bone damage because our bones are getting weaker, perhaps?
That's a separate condition. That's osteoporosis, and that's when we get a weakening of the bones. That can
Is that when you need to
contribute
go
as
to an
well.
osteopath? Because
No,
osteoporosis,
No, they're,
Okay.
they're different. Yeah.
What is it though with, and it seems to be more people of our age that tend to have hip replacements or knee replacements? And
Yes. Once again, what we're talking about there is the end result of many, many years of uneven wear and tear. What we love to do is get people much earlier than that, obviously,
so it doesn't
because if we can address their issues, which it's usually related to, say, foot posture or the way their muscles are moving, if we can change that, then we can decrease the uneven wear over time
What are the signs, Max,
of
of that happening? As you said, if you get it early enough, you can help correct it, but what are the signs?
Yeah, the signs are simply usually an early signs of pain, stiffness, weakness, soreness in the mornings when we get up, those sorts of things.
All of those things, I'm feeling all of those things already.
I'll just rub my knees.
And so what we need to do is really address that from a point of view of how do we improve the movement. So for instance, your shoulder, if you're getting sore on one side and not the other, it's usually related to how you're moving in terms of control of
It's
that
the
shoulder.
swinging through the trees at night that does it for me, and I just can't help myself, you know. I can do all that thing, yes.
Stop it.
Another thing that does interest me, Max, is how did you learn to be what you are?
To be a physiotherapist is a course at university. So at the moment it's the University of South Australia. There's also a course at Flinders University here in South Australia.
That
Obviously
would be
most-
common to the rest of the country.
Yes, indeed. Most universities do have a school of physiotherapy. It's a 4-year course, plus there are postgraduate courses that people can do.
Is there a lot of medicine involved in that, in the physical side, not the chemical side?
Yes, basically it's all about musculoskeletal learning. So we're basically, physiotherapists are trained to be experts in musculoskeletal movement and of course controlling that. And now the nervous system control is all part of that. Our education in those areas has really blossomed compared to when
Fantastic.
I went
Look, just stay there for one tick. We have to have a few little words from friendly stations around Australia, and we'll be back with Max talking about physiotherapy. As always, good information today.
Yes.
We both went together then, didn't we?
Because I was going to wait. I was going to say something, but I knew you'd
Sorry,
get in before me.
it's terrible, isn't it? What were you going to say,
No,
Janice?
just that people can actually follow us on Facebook too. If they've missed something, you can find it on YouTube. So, you know, there's always ways and
Eventually,
means.
we put them up
Yeah,
eventually.
A bit later.
But even more so, back in the bad old days of prior to last year, you couldn't watch this program anywhere in the world unless you were in the capital cities that had community television. But of course now you can download the app onto any palm device or tablet or your computer, or if you've got a smart TV, you can feed into that. You just need to go to whatever your station call sign is. For us in Adelaide, it's C44, but then there's 31 in Melbourne and
different for each state.
Brisbane and Perth, and we hope that you can follow that through, because if you do miss a program and some valid information, you'll be able to still look back and see the programs. They put up special, you know, the different programs each week that are on the site. So we've been talking today to Jim about reconnecting with the pop stars of our past.
And yes, we have. And Max has been telling us about how physiotherapy has changed over the years that you've been involved as a physiotherapist. So
it's about best advice now.
Yes.
Max, what's your best advice as people age, and this can be from a very young age? How do we identify that we need assistance?
The first thing is you listen to your body. Most of us are taught to soldier on.
Hello.
Keep going.
Hello.
You really need to listen
It's not saying
to your
too
body.
much.
Yeah. if we get aches or pains, but it may not be aches or pains, it may be stiffness, it may be discomfort in many different ways, must address it. Find
So
out
your
what's
advice
going
is
on.
don't take something that smothers the pain
That's
straight
right.
up.
That's right. Yeah, sure, we need to address it by icing, so we address the inflammatory process very, very quickly. That's probably a whole different topic we can talk about another time. But the key is to make sure you do something about it. So seek advice from people who really know what they're doing.
And does that start with the GP?
I would tend to say from a physiotherapy side of things, if it's a musculoskeletal problem, I'd always be happy to see people straight away.
Yeah.
You don't have to see a GP to see a physiotherapist, and time is of the essence. The earlier we get onto things, the less problems you're going to have, because we can start addressing the contributing factors immediately, and most people don't know what they are until someone can show them what they are.
And the best way to find somebody is just Google your local area or look up the phone book?
Yes, exactly. Nowadays you can just hop online and have a look online,
And
punch
find
in
it.
Closest to
physiotherapy,
you.
yes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Punch in some names. Obviously, word of mouth is important. So
Sure.
if you know someone that's doing a good job for someone else, find out
Do
who
that.
they are.
Well, thank you so much for that advice.
Thank you very
and
much.
thank you so much for joining us once again with Our Time. Your time,
My time, our
our time.